Welcome to the Odd Life Podcast. That's AWED, which stands for Awake, Well, and Empowered. We're here to have conversations to inspire women of all ages to live odd AF. I'm your host, Hallie, and thank you so much for being here. Let's dive in. Hello, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time you're listening to this. I hope you're having a great day. I had a conversation this morning with a friend. She's a newer friend, and she asked me a question about my creative pursuits and if my family supported them. And I had to think back a little bit about where I started and where it's at now. And it got me thinking about how many of us don't pursue anything that's creative for either fear of the ridicule or things our family's going to say about it, or judgment, or not being supported. I mean, let's just be honest. It sucks when you want to pursue something and you don't feel supported. There's a good chance you're going to give up on it because that support is so important. And I wanted to share about that today just a little bit because I think back about when I first started, and I want to share a little of my story about getting into some creative things. And I hope this inspires you to pursue whatever's on your heart as well. When I got started, I was in the middle of motherhood. And I've explained this back in the beginning of the podcast. So if you want to go back and listen to that, you can. Or if you've already listened to it, I'm sorry, you're going to hear this part again. But when my kids were little, all of mine, when they were babies, I always had some sort of creative energy that came about during either the time before they were born or after they were born. With my third and last child, I had been reading a lot of books, and I was big into historical fiction at that time. I had taken my kids to the library. They were going to be reading books. It was summertime. They had to do some sort of reading lists over the summer to try and win a personal pan pizza. We were in the kids section, and I looked over and I saw a book that said, "We were the orphan train riders." I was like, what does that mean? So I pull out this little book and I'm reading through it, and I am blown away because I am from the Midwest and I had never heard of kids that came in on the orphan trains. These were kids that were maybe in orphanages in New York City. They had maybe immigrant parents. The mom passed away on the way over on the ship. The dad doesn't know how to handle three kids trying to get a job, puts them in an orphanage to help him out, and then he leaves them there. And so I'm learning about these kids that came on these trains out to Midwest and were chosen by families. Some great situations and some not so great. There's actually a PBS series about this. It's fascinating and it's heartbreaking and a crazy part of our history, along with many others. So then I came home. I thought, what if I started writing about this? And I got myself a laptop and I started writing at night. I had an idea for a story and I was writing down these characters and I was typing the story out. I have no idea where this came from. I just had a very, very strong urge to write. I wanted to put something on paper. That story got written. There's a first draft, and then I went back and I started a second draft, completely tore it apart and redid it, and it's sitting in a notebook somewhere, and half of it's on a file probably on my computer. But that changed my life forever. That pursuit of writing. It was such a strong urge that I couldn't ignore it. And because of that writing, even though that fiction went nowhere, it opened up my eyes to so much more of what my life could be. At that time, again, 3 children. One of them is about 6 months old, and I am knee deep in the diapers and the feedings and all the things. Writing gave me something just for me. It was mine and mine alone. If nobody ever read a word I wrote, it didn't matter because that writing did something for me. It felt almost selfish. That sounds weird, but doing something for myself like that for nobody else felt so indulgent and amazing and wonderful all at the same time. And writing led me to meeting other writers in the writing community out in the world, met some amazing authors. Then I began reading more and more books, decided I was going to start a blog because someday I thought, oh, for sure, I'm going to publish this novel. I need to have some place where they can come to learn about me, my website. So I started blogging about the writing process of writing this book. And then I also would share book recommendations. I would share the books I love and started writing those kinds of things on the blog. And that led me to writing for local magazines. When that young little baby that was 6 months old went off to kindergarten, I took a class on how to be a freelance writer, and I learned how to write for my local magazines. And then I did that for a little while. And then I met a woman through the writing community. She was a self-published author, and she helped other authors market themselves who were also self-published. And she asked for my help in reaching out to book bloggers to help review their books, maybe get some exposure there. So I did that part-time. She was living in Boston. I was here, and I did all of that while the kids were in school. And I had a moment where I felt burnout. The writing that I was doing for the local magazines, if you've ever read them, a lot of articles are basic. We're not talking major journalism here. We're just getting the nuts and bolts. Maybe they're an appetizer in the magazine and we have to interview them. It's a quick interview. They don't want to do it either. So they're not very encouraging with their answers. And there's a lot of stuff that's there. So I put a stop to all of it. And then I took a workshop, which many of you know, and that opened my eyes to pursuing myself. Like, who am I? What do I really want in my life? But that writing ended up serving me in this moment because I learned that this writing helped me express myself. So I started blogging about things that I was feeling, that I was going through. And I learned to express myself. And that also was so good for me. As I grew up in the kind of household that was, we don't want to hear a word from you unless it's about your great grades or that you made the team or that you won some award. That was it. There was no wanting to hear my opinion on anything. Nobody wanted to know what I was doing. It was, we'll talk to you when we want to hear from you. Otherwise, go hang with your friends and we'll see you later. So I always stuffed feelings down. I always told myself, nobody wants to hear what I have to say. My voice does not matter. When I was telling myself all of that, it was ruining my mental health, honestly. Now I look back on it. It was as if I couldn't turn away from the curiosity I had around writing. And it was almost as if I couldn't not do it. And it's been such a blessing. I'm so grateful that I took that step towards a creative outlet for myself because it helped me discover who I am, helped me discover my voice. It gave me an outlet for my energy that I knew I had in me that I needed to get out, that wasn't mothering and it wasn't being a wife and it wasn't cleaning up the house and it wasn't driving a kid here, wasn't driving a kid there, wasn't cooking dinner. This was just for me. If you have friends or want to have more friends, which I assume is pretty much everybody, I want to let you know about one of my favorite podcasts, Dear Nina, Conversations About Friendships. Nina talks with a variety of guests who are here to help us find, keep, and grow our friendships. She covers a wide range of topics, all related to friendships that can help you in young adulthood, all the way through the empty nest and beyond. Her weekly episodes have been a cornerstone of my own podcast listening, and I hope you take a moment to check her out. Of course, the link to her podcast is in the show notes. Now, back to the show. And I think about how many women don't pursue creative outlets because it feels like fluff or because it's told to you implicitly or explicitly that it's fluff, that it's not worth anything, that it's frivolous, that it's a hobby. And I'm here to tell you, we are all creative beings and we are meant to use that creativity in our lives. I mean, think about our world right now. We have airplanes. We have cars, we have smartphones. I mean, not all these things are fantastic for us, but those were ideas at one point in time. Somebody thought of something one time that was completely out of the norm and said, what about this? If we tried this? And then it got legs and the idea snowballed into something else. And then it became a plan. And now we have a lot of different things in this world that we live in than 100 years ago because of creativity. Innovation comes from creativity. So we are all creative. We're just creative in different ways. We think of being creative. We think of art. We think of photography. We think of writing. We think of playing music. Those are all creative things. But maybe you are super creative in the kitchen. You whip up these amazing meals for your family or for your friends. That's creativity. Maybe you can go to a garden nursery and you can pick out all these flowers and put them together in your landscaping and it looks amazing. That's creative. Maybe just a DIY project in your house. You're thinking about putting some sort of different kind of covering for your walls. That's creativity. It doesn't have to look like what you think when you say the word creative. It doesn't mean art and writing and playing music. There's so many ways that we can be creative in our lives. And there's so many benefits when we pursue our creativity. We are reducing stress and anxiety. Can you think of a time when you did something that was really creative and just the relaxation that it gave you? And, when you get into that flow state, you do something that's really creative and you start to go, and next thing you know, an hour's gone by and like, wow, that was the quickest hour of my life. You didn't think about time. You didn't think about anything. You were just in that flow state. Being in that flow state more often in our lives is what gives us joy and happiness. So it improves our mood. Then it also gives us that self-esteem boost. We do something that's creative and we get to see the results of that creativity. That's a big booster. You get done that DIY project and you see what you've done. That gives you confidence. When my dad was at the VA, he lived there for 4 years. They did a lot of painting and creative pursuits. It helps reduce depression symptoms and anxiety symptoms and PTSD. And it also provides us with a connection. You take an art class. There's other people there with you taking this art class. You're laughing together. You're exchanging phone numbers. Let's get together, maybe at the park, and we'll paint something together. Or just go have coffee together because you guys really felt a connection. I'll never forget when I first got into writing, I got on Twitter. And I found so many amazing writers on Twitter. There's also a community called She Writes. It was sort of like Facebook, but it was for female writers, and that was it. And I got to meet other women that were out writing, and they would share what they're writing, and they would share their struggles. And you could do an update, like what you see now on a Facebook feed or Instagram feed, whatever. It was a place where you could go and you could share what you're writing. You could share anything, and you could find out where people lived, like what towns they lived in. And so if you found someone that lived near you, you guys could get together. And so that was the original community I found. And then I found out about Twitter. That was my water cooler for the writing community. I found tons of people on Twitter that were writers and creatives. And man, it was such a fun place to be back then. Such a fun place to be, because nobody in my daily life was a writer. I knew other stay-home moms. I knew moms that had corporate jobs. I knew moms that were doing the 9 to 5. Nobody I knew did anything creative. So I had to go online to find people to talk to about this stuff. And it gave me such a sense of community. And that feeling of having people that I could talk to about it was so life-giving and made me feel part of something that was really important to me, made me feel accepted. Because in the beginning, it didn't make sense to people what I was doing. Like, what are you writing? What are you writing about? What's your blog about? And so people in my everyday life didn't really care about me writing a book, honestly. They didn't care to read about book recommendations. If they didn't like to read books, they weren't going to care about what I was writing about. So I didn't have a lot of support in the beginning, but that was okay because I didn't need that necessarily. I didn't need the support because what I was doing was feeling so good. But eventually, it was nice to hear, hey, I read that article. That was really good. And eventually, as my blog morphed from writing about books that I was loving or writing about the writing process, I mean, boring looking back on it, but I took a workshop diving into who I was, what I wanted out of my life, and started writing about the self-discovery things I was going through. And when you're putting yourself out there, when you're really vulnerable, it is nice to hear, hey, I read that piece. That was really good. Or I resonate with that story you shared. There's something about hearing that you're not alone is really important. Or, hey, I'm proud of you for doing this. I don't even need you to read it. Just saying, hey, I'm proud of you for doing this and pursuing this. It's taken me a long time to even admit that that's what I was doing. I didn't really want the judgment, but also it was hard to see somebody in the car line that knew what I'd written. So it was easier actually to write for strangers than for people I knew. So after a while, I really didn't care about the people in my everyday life reading the stuff I was writing because it felt easier to talk to strangers. Eventually, however, it is nice to know people support you in what you're doing. So sometimes I think that lack of support can be a hindrance to people starting something creative. If people in your life don't support you and aren't wholeheartedly behind you in this project that you want to take on, it's hard to do it. But I look at my creativity, like I look at where I started. I am so grateful for that nudge that I had, or that little inkling I had to pursue something. And I cannot tell you enough of how much that changed the trajectory of my life. Hey friends, want to take a quick second to point out a product that I'm using on a daily basis called Perfect Amino. It's by Body Health, and it's one of my favorite supplements. It's composed of pure essential amino acids, the building blocks of protein, in a form and ratio that's up to 99% utilized, but without the caloric impact and without breaking a fast. It's the one protein source that provides the exact ratio of essential amino acids needed by the human body to synthesize new protein and collagen without excess amino acids. I use this product to help me maximize my workouts and hit my protein goals for the day. And now you can get 20% off your order with the link listed at the bottom of my show notes, with lots of flavors to choose from, like strawberry, mixed berry, lemon lime, mocha, chocolate, vanilla, and even unflavored if none of those are your jam. And don't miss out on their seasonal option right now, pumpkin spice. And they've got lots of other products too, like creatine, electrolytes, superfood powders, greens powders, and so much more. Again, that's Perfect Amino by Body Health, and you can get 20% off your entire order when you use the link in my show notes. Now, back to the show. I would not have pursued anything outside of my family if it wasn't for that little curiosity that I had around writing. And then that book I pulled off the shelf. If I wouldn't have followed that curiosity and followed the little breadcrumbs, I would never be in this seat right now talking to you as a podcaster. And now I can't imagine not doing this, because this feeds me so much. This is a huge part of me. Self-expression is something I needed to do a long time ago and was never encouraged. And then I didn't know how to do it for so long. And then as I decided to pursue myself and learn how to express myself, that I finally got here. And not everyone wants to hear what I have to say. And I get that. Cool. Go on to the next podcast. All good. That's totally fine. I know I'm not for everybody, but I'm showing up here in this space because I believe in an idea I have. I believe in a community of women that are living awake, well, and empowered, and how the encouragement to pursue that kind of life will be the catalyst for the change we need to see in this world. Women who are living awake, well, and empowered will change their families. And then their families are going to change their families someday. That's the ripple effect. But it's going to take courage to pursue yourself and to pursue what's on your heart and to pursue your own creativity. This whole world, everything here is because of creativity. So I'm encouraging you to celebrate your creativity. However it shows up in your life, a DIY project, you may be an amazing gardener. You have the most beautiful flowers every year. You bake some incredible bread. You may cook these fantastic dinners for your friends and neighbors and family. You may redecorate your house every season because that feeds you and that feels so good to you. That's creativity. We are all creative. And when we all pursue our own creativity, whatever that is, the world will be a better place because you are then fully expressing who you are and whatever creative gifts you've been given. And you never know, by pursuing that creative gift that you have, it may change the direction of your life. You never know. But it also just may give you joy and happiness and reduces your stress and anxiety. And who doesn't need more of that? So I'm here to say you have my full permission to be creative. You already are creative. You just haven't figured it out yet. All right. I would love to hear if you leave this episode and you question, okay, how am I creative? And then you pursue something. I want to hear what it is that you pursued and how it's made you feel. Please, please, please come back and report to me. I want to know what it is that you pursued that is now giving you life. DM me on Instagram, send me an email, leave a comment under this video on YouTube. Please tell me, because that will give me joy to hear how you are enjoying your life because of your own creativity. Okay, go pursue yourself, go pursue your creativity. You never know what will happen because of it. And you will never regret it. I promise you. Okay, have a great day, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you found this episode either helpful, inspiring, entertaining, or just made you feel less alone. Or maybe all of those things. If so, I'd love it if you'd share this episode with a friend as well as on your social media. And if I dare ask for more, to rate and review the podcast on your favorite platform, especially Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You see, the more reviews we have, the more people we can reach, and the bigger the Odd Life community can become. You guys are the best. I can't wait to chat again next week, so we'll see you then.